Welcome. So in the last video we actually implemented the applying of wallpaper, right? We were able to apply our wallpaper and we were able to view it, right, when we minimize our screen, right? So in this video we are going to implement the auto change feature, and it's actually in the settings area. So this auto change feature, we are going to be using work manager, and work manager is already in our dependency, right? It's here. Yeah, we have work manager here. So as at the time I was creating this video, it has 0.5.2, like more like the latest version. Okay, so depending on what you see when you're trying to create yours. Okay, so but the first thing we need to do is that when user taps on this guy, we need to show a dialog, right? And that dialog needs to like display the durations, right? It also needs to display the location where you want to apply the wallpaper. Okay, so to do that, what I'm going to do, we're going to create a show interval dialog, right? So I'm going to go to our settings screen where we have our settings. Okay, so in this settings screen, when users tap on this select interval, we are going to call a method called show interval dialog, right? So inside here, I'm just going to create a method, and this is something that's going to be below here, right? So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to call show dialog, right? And we have the context, we have the builder here as well. Okay, so here now I'm going to return an alert dialog, right? Just return alert dialog, right? And inside this alert dialog, we'll have to like create the title, which is going to be select auto change interval and location, right? And save it. And here what I can do now is just tap this to see the dialog, right? So select auto change interval and wallpaper, right? So the next thing we are going to do now is to create more like the column that is going to show the intervals, right? It's going to show the minutes in the intervals in minutes. So we're going to use content for this, right? And inside here I'm going to use a column, right? And make sure you use minimum, like the maximum size to be max size dot minimum, so that it will not be too large. Let it just wrap the content inside. Then I'm going to return children. Okay, so the first child, which is going to be for the interval, is going to be like a list, right? Because we want to add like many intervals, 15 minutes to 1 hour, right? So we are going to return this. Okay, and from here what I'm going to do next is to let's just have a gesture detector, because users should be able to tap on what they want to select, right? So we have the on tap property, and then I'll inside here, and I'm going to return a child property that's called container, right? So in that container we are going to create a role, right? But for now, let me just set the child. Let me just say the role. Let's leave it empty. So I need to fix this error that is showing. And now we have the fix. So here now, what I'm going to do now, if I save it, nothing is actually going to happen, right? So first thing first, I want to add a text widget. So it's just going to have like a text widget. Is just going to show like the minutes. Okay, we can just say for now, let's just use 15 minutes. Okay. All right, so moving on, I'm going to add an icon to check. So that icon is just going to be like an indicator to tell users that, okay, you selected this particular interval, right? So I'm going to save that. So let's try to like click on this guy. No, not this one. Let's try to click on the interval. You can see how it's showing, but I want this to be stretched. So I'm going to wrap this guy, the test widget, with an expanded widget. Okay, save it, and let's go back. Not that. Let's click. You can see now it's actually moved to the right, so there's a space in between them. Okay, so I need to like add some margin, like vertical 5, so there will be like good space around these guys. So I'm going to put that and save it. So let's click on it again. You can see now there's a good spacing between it, right? So this is just us building the UI. We are going to write the logic later, so when users select this check, we actually show accordingly. Okay, so the next thing we are going to do now is to add the view, where you can now select if you want to apply home screen, lock screen, or both screen. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to be using role, right? And in the role we have our children, right? And inside here I'm going to create I'm still going to use list.generate, right? So I will have like a list.generated method. So I'll just copy this guy, right? Because it's the almost similar stuff. So I'm just going to copy this list.generate. We are going to have like home screen, lock screen, and everything, right? So basically this is going to be for now, let's just set it as home screen, right? So all of them is going to be home screen for now. Save it, and it's going to be 3 actually, but we are going to update this later. So let's go back, and if I click here, it's showing error because the size is not really what we want. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to wrap this guy with let me wrap it with single child screw view, and set the screw axis direction, axis.horizontal, right? And also I'm going to build out this UI, so I can just remove this guy that is here, and also this role that is here. So this child, instead of it being a role, it will be a test widget, okay, that just says something like home screen, okay, just like that. And we can now put the style. So let me say the test style is going to have a color of white, okay. So save that. So let's go back. Okay, so I'm going to like open up this guy again. So we can see the test is showing, but it's a little fainted, right? It's not really showing what we want. So I'm going to add some decoration to it, and that decoration is just going to be like let's say we have decoration here. I'm going to remove this margin because I think we don't need, I think we need it, we can just leave it there, but this time it's going to be horizontal 5, and we have our decoration box decoration rather. And now we are going to add the border radius to it. The circular, let's just make it 10, and we can also put color, right? And here we can just, for now, let's just use our primary color, right? Let's just leave it like that for now. Then I'm also going to add padding. Padding is going to be 10, so there will be space around it, okay? So let's save that, and moving on. I'm going to go back and open it. You can see how it's displaying, but it looks like this guy is close, very close to our widget. So what I'm going to do is to add some, I'm going to add like 20 of height here, okay, like so. All right, so I'm going to open this. You can see now there's space, and we can scroll to see other listings. So let's go and write the provider to actually return the correct test, and also the 15 minutes interval should also change to the specific intervals, okay? So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go to the settings provider, and inside the settings provider I'm going to create let's locate our settings provider. I'm going to create settings provider dot, right? So inside here I need to create my abstract class for now, because it's more like it's helping me define all the things that I need. I already have this abstract class, so I'm just going to copy and paste it here. So what this is doing is that we have the set auto change interval, right? And then we'll set the duration. That's when user clicks on this interval, right? And we're going to set the duration. You can see 15 minutes. Those are all durations. We are going to call this method. Then we have get auto change interval. This is when we want to fetch the interval that the user already saved. We are going to use that for work manager to be changing this stuff, right? We also have auto change wallpaper, right? Auto change wallpaper, right? We are also going to see how to implement all those stuffs. We are also going to see set wallpaper location. This will be when user clicks on each of this stuff. You're going to set the location. We're also going to get wallpaper location to just get what user entered, right? And here we are also going to see get auto change wallpaper list, and that will be to get all the list counts. So we are just going to display it here, like 2 images selected, 3 images selected, depending on what the user have selected, like, okay. Then we are also going to save auto change wallpaper. That's when user open the select auto change. When they click, we need to like save them instead of opening the view screen, right? Then we have the get app version. It's just more like what we are going to put here, okay? And for this get app version, we already have the package info plus that will be helping us to do that. And in this section, we are also going to be working with shared preference, right, to store all these stuffs in the shared preference storage, okay? So quickly, we are going to create our class, and I'm going to call the settings provider, and here I'm going to extend change notifier and also implement the settings. Okay, so here we are just going to like put all those missing methods. And another thing I need to do, I need to create an instance of the shared preference, right? But for now we can just leave it. Let's first of all generate the interval list that is going to show when user clicks here, right? So I'm going to have, I have something like this, which is to get the interval list, and is returning duration. So since I just want 3 or 4 of them, I'm going to say list.generate 4 items index, like from 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and then 1 hour, right? So we have the index, then we are going to return duration, minutes, 15 times the index plus 1, right? 15 times 2, 30, 15 times 3, we're just going to get the values like that. So this is going to give us the interval list. And also that we are also going to get the wallpaper list. Remember, the wallpaper is in form of index like this. So we have the wallpaper list, which is the home screen, wallpaper location list, which is all these stuff that are here. We have the home screen, we have the lock screen, we also have the boot screen, right? So we need to, because this stuff is returning integers, right? And it's not really a good practice. So what we can do is to create another method that will return the location name based on the int that was returned, right? So to do that, I created a simple switch statement. Okay, so here we have return location name from int. We are going to pass the location, which is this locations, right, which is an integer. Then based on the location, if it's 1, we are returning the test home. If it's 2, we are returning the test lock. If it's 3, we are returning both. But if the default can just be home, right? So that's pretty much what we are going to be doing now. So quickly, what we are going to do now is to go back to I'm going to go to our screen, right, the settings screen, and then try to implement these stuffs. First of all, I'll start with the I'm going to start with the interval list. Okay, so let's go with the settings. So right here in the interval list, I'm going to wrap this screen first with a provider, a consumer rather, and we have our settings provider, right? And here I have my consumer. Okay, so we can just say settings state and child. All right, and then moving on, what I'm going to do now, I think this has not been registered, so we can quickly go to our main.dat and just add that settings provider. Okay, cool, save it, and the error should be gone. And while we have done that, we are going to go back down here to where we have the intervals, right? So here we are going to say show interval duration, and we are also going to get the length of the intervals. So basically what I need to do is more like I need to add durations first, so that we can show this thing one after the other. So for the durations, we can just say let's say the length, because here we need to accept the setting state, right? Let's say settings provider, then we can just say provider here. So whenever we are calling this method, we need to pass that provider, which is the settings state, right? So here now inside the show interval duration, what I'm going to do now is to say the length is going to be settings provider, right? Or let's just say setting state instead of provider. Let's just call these setting state, right? So we are going to say setting state dot we're going to say get interval list dot length, right? I'm going to add like just to get the data. Okay, so I have my settings list dot get interval list, okay, and then passing the index, and then I'm going to get the test that is going to be displayed there. Now I'll just create another variable that says data dot data dot in minutes. So I need to convert it in minutes because this is returning a duration, right? So we need to get in minutes, and then I can now say minutes, right? So the test is just something we can just pass here directly, and remove this const, save it. All right, so now let's close this guy and try to open it up. You can see now we have 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and 60 minutes, which is equivalent to 1 hour, right? So this is pretty much it, and you can see how it's looking cool. Then we can do something else. If this icon, I don't want it to just show like that, but rather I want it to show only if we have added if we have selected something, right? So to do that, I'm going to be creating duration, like a setter or getter for duration, right? So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go over to the screen. So right here, I'm going to create a getter for duration. So selected duration equal to duration, selected duration. I'm also going to select it. So what this will do is that whenever user clicks on one of these items, right, the duration is going to be applied, right? If you select 15 minutes, we are going to set the duration here. If you select 30 minutes, and this check will only show for the minutes that we have selected. All right. So I'm going to go back one step right now into our screen. So here now, what I'm going to do when user taps on it, I'm going to to make this thing work very fine. I will prefer to wrap this guy with a stateful builder, right? So we can use their set state because this is a dialog. So let's call a stateful builder here. And I'm going to remove this and let's just call this a state, right? So this should work. So what I'm going to do now is when user taps on it, I'm going to call settings state dot set auto change wallpaper, right? Set auto change interval, and then I'm going to pass the interval, which is data. I know for now we have not created any logic for this set auto change interval, but we already have it here, right? You can see the implementation is empty. So the next I'm going to do here now is to check if data.isMinutes is equal to the selected duration. Then we can just return this check, right? So we have this: if data.inMinutes, which is the data, is equal to the setting state or selected duration dot in minutes, then we can just show that data for users. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is to work on the setting of auto change interval. So remember we are going to be using shared preference for this. So I'm going to grab the shared preference instance. I'm just going to create like a shared preference instance here. So we're going to come here and create